All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV, a train on the moon. Now, I know that some are going to be rolling their eyes, but this is what the MSM is literally telling us. This is what the governments of the world are saying that they are going to be doing. This is what NASA is saying that they're going to be doing. So it is definitely worth talking about. They're talking about a train on the moon, and Northrop Grumman is involved. Now, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Raytheon, General Dynamics, I think, is the one I always forget, and now I'm forgetting the one I never forget. They are five basic, huge companies. Of course, Boeing's been going through their crazy stuff, but these five companies basically do all of the military stuff, all of the crazy aerospace stuff, and now they're saying that they plan to colonize the moon using a network of railways that will use float or flexible levitation on a track train. The float system will use robotic transports designed to move payloads around the lunar base and even to other outposts. It says NASA is gearing up to revolutionize lunar transportation without the development of cutting-edge railway system on the moon. It says this ambitious project aims to create a reliable, autonomous, and efficient payload transport network to support future lunar bases. Dubbed FLOAT, which stands for Flexible Levitation on Track, this innovative system will play a crucial role in the daily operations of a sustainable lunar base, as outlined in NASA's Moon to Mars plan in concepts like the robotic lunar surface operations too. Now, this is NASA and this is the U.S. Gov that's involved. Here's my question. So I've been saying for years that I feel like that there is something very, very strange going on. You have all of the richest people in the world either building bunkers or buying stock and tickets with, of course, Virgin, Origin, or SpaceX. And you have, of course, Elon Musk saying that we have to go to Mars and colonize Mars. And it's not like a slow project that they're like, well, by 2100, we want to get to Mars. They want to get to Mars by 2030. And he says that he's going to get 1 million people there by that day. And that's literally super, super close. As far as that date, everybody, thinks, oh, that's 6 years out. That's only 6 years out. And as far as what's going to happen before that, they're saying that they're going to make some sort of moon base. Now, I don't think people will believe this until they either see it with their own eyes even if they see it, even if we see a train rolling around the moon, something at a gimmicky restaurant with the train with food, people will still not believe it because they'll say it's of course a projection or something else, or it's Project Bluebeam. So with this is absolutely nuts. They're literally talking about putting a train on the moon when, of course, they don't even have solid evidence that they're getting people there, right? So how the heck are they going to do this? It says what sets FLOAT apart is its utilization of unpowered magnetic robots that levitate over a flexible film track consisting of 3 layers. These layers include a graphite layer for passive levitation using diamagnetic forces, a flex circuit layer for electromagnetic thrust to propel the robots, and an optional thin film solar panel layer to generate power for the base when exposed to sunlight. So just hypothetically, just go down this hole with me and just for a second consider that this is absolutely 100% true. Is this not the most insane stuff that we are talking about right now? They're going to be putting a train on the moon. Now, I just watched another documentary, and it was crazy. 2 times in this last week, there's been some pretty serious kind of experts stating something years apart, saying 40 years and 50 years that our government and our military is actually advanced in technology that we don't know about. That essentially it takes 40 or 50 years until we find out the technology that our government or our military has. And that's based on what we actually find about today, is stuff that's being released that, we had back in the 70s or in the 80s, right? So as far as what is going on now, do we actually have people on the moon? Of course, people have talked about this for years. They actually had, non-terrestrial soldiers or something like that. I forget what the actual term is, but it was a word meaning it's not on Earth, and it was soldiers, and people said that they found a list of soldiers that were basically not on Earth, and this list consisted of names that weren't just astronauts. It was other people, and they were like, that's kind of weird. So I remember hearing about that and seeing that. So I don't know the validity of that, but I remember there was a lot of rumors and speculation that they had soldiers in space already. Now, it would actually make a whole lot more sense. Say we throw out all of the theories or debunks or the things that say that we're not anywhere outside in space and it's all fake. Just say that it is true. It would make sense that it would actually make a whole lot of sense why we didn't go back to the moon if we actually were going back to the moon. If we were already on the moon, that we've been on the moon and China just recently caught up. Like them going to the far side is because we've got bases all over the freaking place already. It would make so much more sense than since we had a technological advancement, we haven't sent humans to the moon this entire time from, the 90s to the 2020s when basically computers just absolutely skyrocketed. It was literally a revolution in computers and we haven't gone back yet. Like it's crazy to me. If you look at the footage from the original moon landing, of course, you could go through, all 50 different angles and films from the original moon landing. And yeah, it looks like a bad B movie. A lot of people doubt it. And then a lot of people say it's proof of it, whatever you want to think about it. I personally think the biggest thing that makes me suspicious about that original landing is why did we stop going? Oh, they say it's about money. Come on, they throw away money like crazy. And now all of a sudden they found money in space, so now they're back to it? Or is it something else? Is it the quadrillion-dollar asteroid that they're trying to get, like in Don't Look Up? Or is it actually because there's some emergency that is coming to Earth? And it would almost make sense if there was some sort of emergency that would make Earth uninhabitable, that maybe was even cyclical, that say the Earth, it's not the end of the world, but it's going to be uninhabitable for however many years. It would make sense that they would go live on the moon for a little bit, then come back or something. But then at that point, why wouldn't you be able to handle whatever is happening on Earth with the same kind of technology? Or unless it was something that was like a great flood or an asteroid that would burn the surface of the Earth. And what if they're talking about putting humans on the moon for 200 years or something, or 1,000 years, whatever it may be? There's a lot of crazy theories and it sounds like sci-fi, but look at what we are covering. They are actually saying that they're going to be building trains and moon bases because from there, they're going to be launching people to Mars. Now, I know a lot of people, I don't believe any of that. Well, again, I don't blame you because look at what they're saying. This is what they accept, but yet when we question other things, they look at us like we're absolutely crazy. If we say, all of these countries are secretly working together, they're like, you're one of those. But when you say, they're building a train on the moon, they're like, yeah, sweet, I know, right? Again, it's crazy. We're going to cover this and so much more on today's episode of Marfoogle TV. So stick around. It's going to be a fun one. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Why do they need a train on the moon? Why do they need it so soon? I'm asking, but are you? Why do they need a train on the moon? Why do they need it so soon? I'm asking, but are you? All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam McKay, Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. As always, if any of the stuff on the show sounds absolutely crazy or unbelievable, you can always go over to our website, marfooglenews.com, and find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. That way you have your fingertips on the sources. Now, I do ask if you are a creator, if you use it. If you use it more than 10 times, as far as all of the lists and all of the articles, if you can give us a shout out, that would be really, really appreciated, especially if you're a gigantic creator. That would be much, much appreciated, and thank you so much. All right, so let's get into it. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so train on the moon. So I know that there's a lot of people that are torn on this, but this is really fascinating because we're talking about this next step in humanity, or at least that's what they're saying. They're also showing us that they're doing Neuralink, they're doing AI. All of these things have hit us all in the last couple years. And if everything they say is true, which again we know that not everything is. As far as what's happening right now, we are in a crazy time. We are in a time when humanity is so-called evolving. Meanwhile, actual human beings, we are devolving. There's very few that are evolving, and if you look at how they have demeaned kind of even the highest quality schools, the Ivy League schools, so-called the smartest people in the world, it seems like those are going downhill. And at the same time, technology, AI, and dependence on all of this technology is going skyrocket high. If you look at the technology and what it's able to do, just in the last couple days, they have shown us AI that can actually, on your phone, use the camera and observe the room, surveil the room, and basically identify everything in the room and have a conversation with a normal voice or whatever voice you want it to have. You can have it be a robotic woman voice, or you can have it be a deep narrated movie voice, and they'll talk to you in that, and they'll have a human conversation with you. This is where we are at with GPT-4o. It is really terrifying to me and to a lot of others, because if you understand what this can actually replace when teamed up with robots, this is absolutely insane. Now that technology has caught up with where all of this other stuff is, where battery technology is caught up with all of this, now we are talking about when we are in Terminator land, literal Terminator AI takeover kind of land. At the same time, they're saying that they're going to go to the moon. Somebody else in chat said something like, Jurassic Park on the moon. They're also working on that kind of stuff. CRISPR, gene editing. They're working with Neuralink and actually being able to read your brain and your thoughts. Soon they'll be saying, oh, you can go to a service and get your dreams read, but they're actually going into your brain and reading your dreams. Like, this is the future. And also the future is us being replaced and us not having any jobs. So how are they gonna bounce back from that? How are they going to rebound if all of us are out of the job? And I mean almost all of us. Even the jobs that we thought, oh, those were safe. Now with these incoming kind of technologies, I don't think that there is any job that is safe. If you can name a job that would be completely safe from this, let me know, and I'm pretty sure we could find a way where AI teamed up with robots could probably take that job. It's pretty freaky. Dex, as far as Train on the Moon, like, this is like, it's insanity.
It's pretty fascinating, that's for sure. And look, it's not just NASA, it's also the DoD. So Northrop Grumman has been tapped by both of them, and under the DoD, it's with DARPA. So for that particular case, they're also looking at developing a train network using the same technology. So there's going to be multiple uses for this tech if it comes to fruition. So yeah, they're very ambitious, and obviously we have two different agencies pushing and spending to get this done, both NASA and DARPA/DoD.
And you're talking about almost every kind of technology that we see as civilians was initially a militarized one. And then you see some things, like some folks, I just heard somebody say that just wait until ChatGPT 4o is weaponized. I would think that the government has had something like this before ChatGPT. Like, somebody got ChatGPT. If not, then that is a scary thought, where it was actually made by a private company first, and then it is weaponized. It is being weaponized in every country. China is one of the leads in that, where they are actually using AI, autonomous drones, and even drone carriers. They're essentially applying every asset that they have that is as far as AI technology and autonomous drones into their arsenal. So this is something that we have to look forward to for a World War III scenario, and it's going to be absolutely bonkers. As far as DARPA and all of this being involved, you know that at the very least that there's probably some pretty shady stuff going on here. Very, very creepy. And I guess, everybody will be debating on whether it's true or not. I would say look at it as if, even if there's a 1% chance that all of this is true, this is absolutely mind-blowing. That we may see some sort of reflection of a train spinning around the moon. If not, then what is coming? If they're saying all of this, then how are they going to hide it when in 5 years they say all of these things are going to change? Is this part of that mission to change everything, change the structure of our world, and make us think that something else is going on? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Genius by Birth, thank you for gifting out badges. Thank you so much. Thank you, Genius. And appreciate you stopping by tonight. Also, let's do a quick roll call before we get into some of the heavier stuff. We're going to get into the conflict, what is going on with, of course, the Middle East. We're going to talk about, of course, we're going to talk about China. We're going to talk about Russia. All of that is on the docket for today. Enough already says it's Kim's train. Space 1999 had a train. Actually, I think there's a lot of fictional movies with trains and what do you call them? Monorails on the moon. Tammy Driver, what's going on? Paranormal Biker from West Texas. We've got Florida. We've got Tenino, Washington. I always forget about Tenino. South Bend, Indiana. We've got Mulberry, Indiana. Worst state in Pennsylvania, I think, Penna. Population, yep. And then OHIO. We've got Gillian Mason from England. What has happened? Let's see here. Q Magoo. We've got Lisa Douglas, Quintress. We've got Jonathan. We've got Tyler Jones from Lubbock, Texas. In the Dark from the space station. Central Washington, M. St. G. We've got Ontario, Canada in the house. And we have, let's see here, Hudson Valley, New York. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. Amarillo, Augusta, Georgia, and so many more. Dallas, Minnesota, Oregon, and Little Elm, Texas. Got a few from Colorado and even Illinois. All right, thank you, guys. Trevor Nice is here. Live, Love, Life, Love, Laugh, and Jim Sneer. Some new names and very old names like Rip Curl. Thank you for modding. Again, thank you, LAPD. And other old school Foogle fam, thank you guys for making it today. All right, let's go over to the map. And U.S. suffers radio blackouts after being hit with another solar storm. So if you were not aware, you can go over to Wages World, one of our mods, and a larger creator now. He just got a bunch of new people, of course, from all of the solar action going on. But Wages World has been covering all of the solar activity. So make sure to go over and check him out if you have not already. He is literally following all of the events at 3 in the morning. If something happens, he knows about it. So if you do want to be up to date on all of the solar events, then make sure to go follow Wages World. But he just told us that there was 6 more blasts off the sun. So if you want more details about that, make sure to go over and watch his channel. He's got some updates over there. But as far as the radio blackouts, they said that it is due to some of the stuff coming off of the sun. The sun released another powerful stream of energized particles towards Earth early Tuesday, causing blackouts across the U.S. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, showed disruptions all over North America at about 12:51 p.m. Eastern. The solar flare, classified as an X8.8, was the strongest to come from this cycle, which started in 2017. NOAA said that it was a radio blackout level 3 on a scale from 1 to 5. So this was in the middle. First of all, this is just the very beginning of the peak of solar cycle 25, which again started in 2017. We are at the midpoint, and they said that the peak is actually going to be coming earlier than it was supposed to. Everyone that follows this says that there are markers, and they saw the markers early. So they're saying that this is about to get really, really unpredictable. Not to mention, this is actually, there's two gentlemen in particular that a lot of scientists are actually going towards their theory of a 22-year cycle compared to an 11-year cycle. And they looked at, I think, 400 years of different recordings of solar activity, and they are saying that they actually believe that this may be something that happens very, very unoften in our lifetimes, but it happens in regular intervals, and that solar cycle 25 is possibly going to be home to even a possible Carrington level event, that it may be home to crazy, crazy solar activity. Now, if you follow what's been going on with that, that is exactly what's been happening. They just said that there was a level 3 radio blackout, and this wasn't even on the top of the scale. Again, it was an X8.8 and a level 3 out of a 5. Dex, as far as the sunspot, this thing has been launching, one thing after another. We don't really know if that the last 6 blasts, though, we don't know if that was aimed at us, but it may be.
Yeah, so this one that hit Earth today and had the radio blackout is coming from the same sunspot that was causing all the issues over the weekend, making that large storm that we all saw the auroras from. And then the update from Wages he sent just a little while ago is throughout the day there were multiple blasts off the sun, and he said he's not typically seen that many. I don't have clarification of which ones, if any of those ones that are in this animation are actually headed towards our planet. But if they are, that'll just add to this and continue to show us that, activity that's coming off the sun. And again, when we get a CME, which usually follows the X flare comes really quick, almost instantly. And then the CME follows a few days behind because it moves much slower. But when that happens, if you have multiples back to back, it actually weakens our magnetic field that's around Earth, which is what's protecting us. So if you got sort of like getting the 1-2 punch, but in this case, maybe a 1, 2, 3, or 4 punch, each one, the successive ones after, can get through or can be weaker and feel stronger because the first ones have weakened the field, and it takes time for that field to build back up.
This is why a lot of us in the community are prepping, and that sounds crazy. When somebody that's not in this community hears that, they immediately draw back. This is actually very, very concerning. If you look at this is back to back, boom, 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 boom. If you look at this animation, you'll see it's right side, boom. It just looks like the whole sun is exploding here. There's right side, left side, top side, again, right side. This is all, I thought it was just all on one. When I heard 6, I thought it was from just one side, that it was just this back-to-back small thing. These are all huge, and they're all it's just like it's shooting every which direction. This should wake people up, alongside with Northern Lights seen down in frickin' Alabama. I had a bucket list to see the Northern Lights. That is checked off now. I'm in Washington, and I saw the most beautiful display I've ever seen. All we had to do is go a little bit farther out, and I was hoping. You guys know that night when we were expecting it to hit, it had already hit in the eastern side. In fact, it was like daylight here, and in Georgia, Dex was able to get pictures from outside, or one of his family members took pictures already, and it was dark, and it looked pretty, it glowed pink. Up here in Washington, just going away from the city lights, I was able to get amazing photos. Just beautiful craziness. I could see it without the camera. A lot of people were saying that they could see it a whole lot better with their phone. I definitely saw, a screensaver quality colors in the sky and northern lights in the sky with my phone. But with my bare eyes, I could see the waves. There was something, they said that a lot of people were crying and having this emotional moment when they saw all of this. I didn't have that, but I certainly was in awe, in actual awe of just looking at this thing and seeing all of this stuff hit. As far as the solar events, it's not really debated. Most scientists agree, and most experts and most people that follow this, and I would say 99% of them all believe that if a really, really large one hits, and bigger, way bigger than this, that we are going to have problems. Our current society is completely based and dependent on technology. We've even taken hardcore, hard-lined connections between a lot of our infrastructure, and we've said, we don't need that anymore. We don't need to use a phone line for that, or we don't need to use a physical line. We can do it all wirelessly. Heck, we can do all of this through radio signals and this and that. It's like now, all of a sudden, we are almost completely dependent with tons of our infrastructure. And that's really scary when you see this. This is after all that stuff that hit over the weekend. This is blowing up every which way. I mean, just looking at that, you don't have to be an expert to say that looks insane. That one, number 3, I think was the craziest. If you looked at that number 3, actually 5 and 6 too. I mean, just as Ed Bassmaster would say, just look at it. Just look at it. I mean, that is absolutely nuts. Watch number 3. So I'm hoping not that number 3 wasn't the one facing Earth. I hope none of these were facing Earth. But the fact that it is blowing up like this should be a wake-up call. If we do lose comms and grid and internet and all of the other things that we take, for granted, I hope that people have been prepping for the last 5 years. I hope even the people that are like, oh, you said this was going to happen 5 years ago. Nothing is ever going to happen. I hope that even those people have a seed in the back of their brain getting themselves to prepare. By the way, let's go over to the chat. Thank you guys. Thank you. Let's see here. We had Stormhawk yesterday. Thank you, Wages World Nevitz. Thank you for your support yesterday and this week. Thank you. Let's see here. We have, and thank you today. What's up? Maybe the elites are getting ready for an uprising by the people once we discover how deep the corruption really goes. Now, I don't know what the actual event that they're all prepping for, but if you look at the golden passports, the plan Bs, the plan C, plan Ds that the rich are doing right now, the bunkers, the citizenships all over the world, the tickets to the moon, and all of this other crazy stuff, it just doesn't seem right. Oh, and investing in gold, hoarding, all of this is happening. Look at the price of gold. Something is about to happen. And then I used to be in the library. It says it's my GSP's dog's 2nd birthday today. Happy birthday, Cooper. Thanks, Foogle fam. Hey, I used to be in the library. Thank you for supporting. And then thank you, Nevitz. Thank you guys for supporting Independent. We really do appreciate you. Over on DLive, thank you, Chance, for modding. I appreciate you for keeping that alive over there. Skyhouse, Kimbria, thank you guys for being hardcore DLivers. I appreciate all of you guys that watch us over there as well. All right, let's go back over to the map. And Dex, do you want to talk about Putin plotting physical attacks on the West, or at least this is what is being said?
Yeah, certainly. So a top British intelligence official has issued a new warning concerning this threat. Annie Keast-Butler, who for the last year has headed up the UK's GCHQ, or SIG Intelligence Ops, it's kind of the equivalent of the NSA, has warned in her first major speech about Putin plotting physical attacks. So more specifically, she was talking about, she was addressing cybersecurity experts, and she was talking about the groups, and specifically in Russia, saying that they were inspiring and nurturing cyber hackers to attack, but even, quote, in some cases, coordinating physical attacks against the West. So now, to the extent that this person has knowledge coming from a intelligence organization like that, that may be interesting, or it could just be fodder to be pushing out and getting everybody geared up against Russia. So take it for what it's worth, but that's what we're reporting, or at least that's what they're reporting, and that's what we're talking about. So it is a big deal when you hear this type of information come out, and especially at higher levels like this. But it's also, you have to ask the question, why are they presenting it? And whether it's on the side of maybe warning people, or is it the side of creating animosity amongst people and painting a boogeyman? Either way, it is what it is. But we have to look at it. We have to understand, what does it mean to us, and what does that change in ourselves for what we may do to prepare or be ready when something bigger comes along.
And the GCHQ is the equivalent to our NSA. So these are the folks that are tracking, monitoring, and surveilling the UK. As far as the warnings they've put out, like what happened in Vlad's country with the concert and everything else, it's like when they put out something like this, whether you believe it's this is some sort of op or something, or it is totally legit, either way, people most likely will take this seriously because of, if it's being said, why is it being said? Is this a warning, or is it a heads up to something that's planned, or Fantastic Freddy style? Is this a setup for something? We don't know. But what we do know is that it is being said. So plan accordingly, or at least don't be sideswiped by something crazy. At the same time, over the last 3 months, we've heard about nationwide events happening here in the United States. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but obviously the UK, Europe, France specifically too. You have all heard from your local governments that there's going to be possible events, right? Here, they tell us that there's possible events that make 2001 look like chicken feed. At the same time, for the last 4 years, we've had just countless numbers of people coming in, and there is a huge percentage of these that are from all of our adversarial countries, and we know that a certain percentage of this, it's a fact, are the baddest of the bad. So it's common sense for anybody to go, hey, this is a concern. As far as the folks that are coming in, a lot of military-age males, and that cannot be forgot about. People kind of talked about it for a good 6 months straight. Now I haven't heard much about it the last month or two. A lot of people have actually moved on from a lot of the stuff that's going down in the South, but it hasn't stopped. It hasn't been fixed. But have you noticed that they're not really covering it so much anymore? It is being covered, but it's not like it was. It's not front page. And of course, they used it for when Elon was talking about it and everybody else. It was what they got. Now they have a war to talk about, so they don't need to talk about all of this stuff. They've got a big another war to cover, and then in 3 months, when they need something to talk about, there's going to be another issue. But at the same time, all of this is going down all at the same time. Vicky K, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Over on DLive, thank you for the diamond. And then before we move on, if you want to protect yourself against either a solar event from the sun, like we were just showing you, or an EMP from an adversary, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. All of the affiliates that I've ever picked are stuff that I think that is going to protect you, save your life from a crisis, or make you more comfortable through a disaster. So this is a huge one, because this is something I truly believe should be built into cars from the lot, or it should be code for all houses to have. The government right now, here, I can't speak for other countries, is now trying to revamp all of our grid because we are completely vulnerable. They are preparing their own buildings, their own barracks, their own government buildings, their own military establishments with this kind of protection. So in my opinion, we should be too. In fact, EMP Shield has done contracts for agencies like DOD, DHS, and of course on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. What the device does is it can be wired into your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, generators, ham radios, homes, and it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. So it's very easy to do. You don't have to be a mechanic to put this in your vehicle, especially if you have a newer vehicle that has a lot of electronics, then you definitely want to get one of these. It is red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground or to part of your frame, and then, of course, bolted into the side of your engine block, and you're done. 10 minutes and a couple sweaty 10 minutes, and you're done. MarfoogleNews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. You'll save $50 off, and you'll help our channel. We are on our own. We do this all by ourselves. And again, we just have the Foogle fam to thank for all of our support. So thank you guys. More so than any affiliate, though, Again, make sure to go share us out if you can. Bring in somebody that you think will actually be an addition to the fam and to our audience, not somebody that's just completely negative and going to pull everybody else down. At this point, the subscriber numbers, honestly, are not a worry about us. I think that if we bring in even 10 good people every day, that would be amazing over 1,000 negative ones. So bring somebody in, a friend or family member, that would be much appreciated, that you think would value our show. We put a lot of work into it, and we do appreciate all of you guys supporting. All right, and then Putin begins defense ministry purge amid nuclear secrets leak rumor. There's all sorts of leaks happening. Dex, as far as the leaks that are happening, almost every one of them seems purposeful at one point or the other. It's like, you got to ask, why did these things leak, and then what are the results from it?
Well, certainly, and this is sort of an update to the Shogu story we talked about last night, because what's now come out is there were two people underneath him that were had resigned maybe like a week before or just before his pulling, when they pulled him. Some are calling him his removal a firing because the position he has really doesn't have much power. It's just close to Putin. And they're also suggesting that there were other things going on. So there was two people, Alex Kryuchkov, I'm sure I'm butchering the name, and then Ruslan Fazlikov, both Shogu's deputies, apparently resigned a week before his resignation. And then there was another person, but they don't know the actual date of their resignation. That person was the deputy finance minister, Tatiana Shevtsova. So anyway, that's going on. But then there's another claim in here that there was all of this happened 2 weeks before they sacked Shogu, if you want to call it that. Igor Shushko, the executive director from one of the research groups, claimed that the former defense minister and his deputies had been accused of leaking nuclear secrets and could be facing state treason charges. So if that's true, that's kind of a big deal too. So, and that, if that's true, that might make sense as to why these people resigned, and in this case of Sergei Shoigu, was removed and placed into another position still under the eye of Putin. So, again, we don't necessarily get all the details. A lot of the stuff has to come out through the different rumor mills from people in the know, as they call it. And a lot of the stuff comes out through Telegram. I think some of the stuff was posted on Telegram. So we'll have to take it all with a giant grain of salt. But at the same time, even mainstream is running with this and talking about it. So it's the information we have. And it is obvious there was a shakeup going on with the defense ministry there in Russia.
But we also know that, there's an obvious bias of Western media. They are going to portray something in a certain light to spin it in a positive way for themselves. As far as a promotion for Shogu could also be called a firing by Western media. So we don't know which way it actually goes, because we have the filter of course, our governments and our, the people in charge. But as far as what is happening right now, all of these positions that are rotating, something big may be on the horizon. So definitely keep your head on a swivel. And then NATO member Estonia is seriously discussing sending troops to fill non-combat roles in Ukraine, security advisor says. So yesterday I somewhat mentioned this, but this is as far as, because there was a lot of chatter about NATO, specifically yesterday. Other people thought that other countries, that France, there was a rumor in France that they were going to send troops as early as this next weekend or something, and Telegram groups were chattering about that. And then of course, it was like within hours there was stuff talking about Estonia. Estonia is seriously discussing sending troops to fill non-combat roles in Ukraine. First of all, non-combat or combat, it doesn't matter. Most of you understand this. If Estonia or NATO member soldiers are on the ground and a missile hits and destroys NATO troops, that's calls for an Article 4 then Article 5 type of situation. where they call in and say, hey, you just took out all of our troops. How they would do this if this happened, and even if they send in non-combat, most people understand that they already have troops in Ukraine. This much has been talked about by different countries. Different NATO members have basically let the cat out of the bag that there are NATO members in Ukraine actually running some of the high-tech gear, the weapon systems, the Patriot systems, things like this. And this is what all of our community called forever. I mean, right from the get-go, when they said they were sending the Patriot systems and training in France, people were saying, yeah, right, they're going to send our guys in there. And then later on, it was admitted. It's so crazy because, there's it's almost a meme now that everything that is called a theory now, give it 3 months and it's the fact. And that's really played out over the last 4 or 5 years, almost every single time. So think about what is a theory right now, and think about what percentage of those end up being true. It really seems some of the big ones that don't go to sleep, they almost always end up being true. And I'm not talking about crazy. I mean, there's some things I consider crazy, like real crazy. I'm not talking about just way, way down there. But most of the big ones that really just don't go to sleep, that just keep getting brought up, almost always those are true. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments down below. Speaking of which, a lot of really great people have joined us in chat. Thank you. Thank you, Briar Patch. Hey, nice to see you. Stephen McMahon, it seems the feedback from this UKR is the tanks are obsolete. Now I hear aircraft carriers are obsolete. Stephen McMahon, that's a great comment. So the tanks, if you didn't know, we covered this about a week and a half ago. They had to pull back all of the Abrams in Ukraine because the second that the Abrams were in the front line, Russia was hitting them. Russia has satellites hooked up to their defense systems, so anything that went forward, their satellites would target it and just take it out. So they actually moved the Abrams back. So it's changed. War has changed. Old school tanks, mobbing up onto a battlefield, that's kind of over. When you have long range satellite guided missiles, it's kind of hard. Even if you have defensive systems that would knock those offensive things down, if you overwhelm it with drones or even low tech, then that's what is happening. They're saying that these low flying, untrackable drones are flying right into them, and then boom, they're gone. And then as far as carriers, the why Stephen McMahon is right, if what they say is true. China has technology, or says that they have technology, and they very well could be lying, that can actually essentially make our radars useless on our carriers. Even if it wasn't true, and say they can't do that, our carriers can no longer hide, because now we have also covered that China has launched so many surveillance satellites that they essentially have the ability to track wherever our Navy is. And they're constantly tracking. So the second that they leave port, they're following them, and they are actually tracking their every move. And it's kind of hard to hide a 700-800 foot ship, especially when you're looking down upon it. Maybe they can hope for a cloudy day, but I think even then they have technology that can see right through that. So yeah, crazy. And then John, let's see here, Kingdom Return, Turbo Chan, and Olden Badger. They stole the designs, of course they do. Yep. Good Lord. Speaking of which, China just finished their third carrier, and or is it their fourth? Dex, is it their fourth that they just completely finished?
Third.
Yeah, it's the third, and they're working on the fourth. They're looking for pilots. And Estonia, as far as them joining, yeah, where do you think that's going to head? It's bad news all around. Bad news bear. And then how Europe and Britain will stop Putin unleashing Armageddon. Interactive graphics shows nukes on Russia's doorsteps, conscription at 18, and arms factory entering a war footing in the face of doomsday World War III scenario. So Tex, do you want to explain what this means?
Yeah, so this article has done a great job of explaining all of the all of the things that have happened that are basically putting us at the forefront of World War III, and more specifically talking about what Europe, Britain, and others have done, as well as what Russia has done. And if ever there was a piece that said, "Hey, the writing's on the wall. This is it." Now, maybe this is a big giant piece of Ganda, as we talk about the fact that NATO continues to put that message out that Russia is on the verge of attacking. You have to be ready. You have to join, or we're going to conscript you, etc. So they go through a whole series of the different things, and a lot of the stuff, but things that we've covered. But like the defense spending, the fact that the amount of money that all the countries have been spending in UKR, the fact that Rishi Sunak just said that they would take their defense spending up to 2.5% of GDP. Other people throughout Europe have all bumped up their military spending significantly. It then goes into detail about the conscriptions that are going on, specifically the one we talked about, I guess it was last night.
Germany.
Yeah, Germany, talking about going all the way down to 18, maybe women and men, if not just men, and expanding that, as well as the other programs in the other NATO nations there for conscription. And then it talks about the war games that have been going on, like Steadfast Defender, which has been happening. It's still going on right now, because you remember, we've talked about this. It's a huge training exercise going on up against, in NATO countries, up against that Russian bloc, so to speak, there. And it is going on from January all the way through June. And we've talked about numerous of the sub exercises, if you want to call it that have happened in the meantime. But this is involvement of 90,000 troops, 32 members of the alliance, all in there. Of course, the Arctic expansion and what's been going on there. We had the huge Nordic response, which they've always had Nordic training. It's happened every year. Norway has always hosted it, but this time it was 20,000 troops. So again, look at what is happening specifically. And then there's a really good image in here that's also interesting on the Arctic. It shows the disputed areas that kind of show where Russia's claims to the Arctic Circle, Canada's claims, the U.S. claims, but specifically it looks like Greenland, Russia, and Canada have a lot of overlapping areas where there's disputes as to who actually is claiming that portion of the Arctic. So again, another part of this conflict that can ramp up between Europe and Russia. And then, of course, now the big push to host nukes, and all the countries asking to host nukes, like Sweden just recently and Poland just before then, and the fact that we have nukes everywhere. So great article. If you want to share it with somebody or dive deep into all of those details, feel free to go get to it. It's on our website, but that's the gist of it. And I think it certainly puts together a lot of the things that we've covered over the weeks, months, and even year now on this topic. And it's certainly very, specific as it relates to the obviousness of the preparation for, basically all out war in Europe.
What's great about this is very easy to go through. You click on Norway, plans to double military spending. And this doesn't even show countries like Japan, everything else. This is just the more the NATO countries. France. France building its largest ever nuclear sub, ramping up arms production, high-intensity combat training. Germany considering conscription at 18, a mandatory year for men and possibly women. And, of course, you have Poland open to hosting nuclear weapons, new bomb shelters in Warsaw, which are massive. Some of those through the community. There are contractors in the community that make bunkers. They are saying that they are making some of the largest bunkers known to man. That should wake people up. And those are not being talked about. Join NATO in 2024. Sweden, one of the newest members, is open to hosting nukes. I think it Stephen McMahon or somebody yesterday said, Sweden's open to hosting nukes. Now I've heard everything. I mean, this is Sweden we're talking about. Historically has tried to stay neutral on almost everything, and now you have them open to hosting nukes in wartime situation, and the population was urged to prepare. They're being told at their local grocery stores to stock up. There's actual notes at checkout saying, please grab an extra can of food, grab extra water, please. I mean, it's basically telling people to get ready. They're also offering classes in several of these places. Their local grocery stores have put out. I forget what they call the program, but they're offering and bringing in military to train civilians on how to last through grid down scenarios, on how to grow their own food. All of these things being done in like the produce aisle. Like, what the heck? And people really think that this is going to go away? This is exactly what World War II looked like before World War II, only it's been modernized. All the same countries, all the same player, the usual suspects. It's all happening again. And you can see the same thing in America where it's over there. Don't worry about it. It's over there. We're sending money. We're sending gear. We're sending weapons. We're sending tanks. We're sending jets. We're sending planes. And then an event happens here. In World War II, it was Pearl Harbor. In World War I, it was, I believe, wasn't that the letter with when we were fighting Pancho Villa, and one of the countries basically admitted to helping that. I forget what World War I was, but almost every time there's an event that gets us pulled in, and that's what I am waiting for. What are you guys waiting for? I'm hoping a lot of you are going to say I'm waiting for it to all go back to normal, but I don't think that that's going to happen, and that's why we prep. Biden blocks Chinese-backed crypto mining firm from land ownership near Wyoming missile base. So most people will look at this as a positive, but it's a little too late, a little bit too little. China has been buying up farmland and all sorts of different land right outside of our bases, some of which documentarians have gone and said, look at this. Across the street from the base, you see a huge piece of land and private buildings, do not trespass, secretive buildings right across the street from the bases. Like, really? Common sense here. And it's owned directly by a company or a corporation that is directly linked to the CCP. I mean, if it was just a citizen, a Chinese citizen, that's one thing, or a Chinese American, that's one thing. But it's corporations that are directly linked. That's what's freaky. But as far as this goes, JB on Monday issued an order blocking a Chinese-backed cryptocurrency mining firm from owning land near a Wyoming nuclear missile base, calling its proximity to the base a national security risk. A little too little and a little too late. The order forces the divestment of property operated as a crypto mining facility near the Francis E. Warren Air Force Base. Mine One Partners Limited, a firm partly backed by Chinese nationals, and its affiliates are also required to remove certain equipment on the site. A lot of computer gear, right? Servers and things like this. This comes as the U.S. is slated on Tuesday to issue major new tariffs on electric vehicles, semiconductors, solar equipment, and medical supplies imported from China, according to a U.S. official that's another person familiar with the plan, which we're going to talk about. All of this crazy stuff going on with all of these tariffs. Dex, do you want to go over the tariffs with China and the trade fight with T-Man?
All right, so this is getting crazy. Set the political side apart. Let's look at it from the potential economic war side of this. So it just came out that our current president said he was planning to raise tariffs on the EVs coming out of China by 100%. That's huge. Now, some of us will say, hey, that's great. We should do that. It'll help save our own auto industry. I think we ought to figure out how to make our autos a little cheaper, because when every car here costs almost $100,000 and they're making them for $20,000, that's a big problem. But I digress. There's probably other issues in there too. That's oversimplifying it. But then, the former president said, well, I'll raise it 200%. So again, let's set the politics aside. But literally, our current president is raising those tariffs, and they're going to go into effect. And he's also going to increase the tariffs on steel and aluminum products that are coming from China from 7.5% to 25%. And he's raising the tariffs on solar cells to 50%. And a new duty on shipping cranes is going to now be 25%. So you think about all of those tariffs being placed on those products coming in from China is going to obviously hurt China's ability to sell them, and that's going to make there was another one. The large storage batteries is going to 25%. So larger storage batteries. I don't know what the definition of that is. I'm imagining that's probably for the cars, but and then a new tariff on natural graphite will go to 25%. So anyway, some of these will take effect in later years, but some of them are actually going in effect this year. So that's directly related. It's almost getting close to sanctioning, but it's basically putting the economic screws onto China, so to speak, as it relates to some of these products that they have in great quantity, they have in low price. We want, but it's also going to hurt our own industry, our own capabilities of producing them. So some of these make sense. Obviously, we produce steel, we produce cars, and it would be nice to not have them flood our market with them. But at the same time, there's also issues where I'm sure a lot of people around here are saying, I can't afford $100,000 car. I think a car should be, $20,000. They've longed for the days when new cars were only $15,000 and $20,000. So, yes, those are the challenges we face.
So one question I have, because I've always thought of, at least for the last few years, thought of JB as somebody who was in Xi's pocket. When he does things like this, it almost makes, did he do like a two-face thing? Just hypothetically, say that all of the folks that claim that he had somebody in his pocket doing something like this obviously would put him at odds with Xi. Then who is the person above him that's helping? Who has, or did he turn on somebody who he might have worked with before, right? Who's running the show here? And is China actually JB's enemy? This makes it look like it, but what if there's a bigger game at play? Like they're trying to make it look like there's now reason to go to war with China, and then they go to war and all of this other stuff gets fleshed out, like restructuring the entire planet. Because there's things like this, but then at the same time, when 2019 happened and all of that, it's like the entire world got under the same umbrella. Everybody was listening to the same officials and following their rules without, nobody pushed back on it. Or, I'm sorry, there were people that pushed back. There were like 5 or 6 countries that pushed back, and all of their leaders mysteriously got replaced or perished. Yeah, that's right. So if you didn't go with the rigmarole, you just had really bad luck as far as, continuing your life on Earth or ruling the country that, had said problem with whatever was going on. Again, there was like 4 or 5 in like a few months period, and it was really, really, really odd. Just odd, just odd, just weird. But again, it's my question is like, what do you guys think? Is there something there? Dex, go ahead.
Well, technically he could still be in bed with them, and this could just be smokescreen to make it look like he's not. And because at the end of the day, if you think about it, the U.S. population is only about 4-point-something% of the world. And if China would own the EV market, let's just use that as an example, would own the EV market for the world or dominate it for the world, losing 4% for a few years while, this goes down to play the cover role, so to speak. It's not going to be it'll be a drop in the bucket, but it won't be that big of a deal. They'll recover from it. It's not there, granted, America has the most money. I know that the small number of people we have in our country represents the largest amount of money to be spent, but there's a lot more people out there and a lot of cars to be sold to billions of people across the world, besides just the US. So I think they can take the hit for a year or two while the cover is laid down and everybody thinks, oh, look at what a great job he's doing fighting China. So, yeah, it could go either way on this one.
That's I said, like, is it just all to make it look like he's not, nobody's in his pocket? Before we move on, make sure to go check out Harvest Right. If you have looked into freeze-dried foods, you probably know that they are expensive. That is because somebody else is doing the packaging, somebody else is doing the work of the freeze drying. If you want to get into it yourself, you can actually spend about 25% of what it costs to buy it as far as manufactured and pre-packaged. Now, you can do all of the same things. You can package it in Mylar. You can have it last up to 25 years. This has a lot more customization. The machine is very easy to use. It's called Harvest, right? And again, they have different models, but they're very, very easy to use. Essentially, it's almost like a set it and forget it type thing. Again, you can actually customize your food how you want it. And again, when you're talking about dietary restrictions or certain allergies, you can accommodate that. As far as if you're a gardener, if you have a lot of food that ends up going to waste, if you have a lot of fruit and veggies that you end up throwing or giving away because you gotta eat it before it goes bad, you can end up freeze drying those. As far as the meats and the different things that you buy, you can actually go out and you choose how to spend your money on the food that you're freeze drying. So you can save a lot of money in that aspect as well. If you want to be frugal and try to coupon and get the most savings, then that is definitely a savings in the end. Now, the initial investment, that is not cheap. This is a machine that can freeze dry, and it is one of the best made out there. As far as once you get the machine, though, that is where you start saving. It depends on the size of the family. As far as if you have a family of 4 or 5 or 6, then yeah, this is going to save you money in the short run almost. As far as you can spend $15 on a single meal if you go to Walmart. So as far as being able to do it for less than 25% of that is insane. So again, it depends on how much food. If you're trying to get 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or a year of food for a family of 4 or 6, that can get absolutely insane, especially if you're trying to get freeze dried or long term. Now, you could also go down a different route. You could dehydrate. That is something that you now have resources on the internet and on YouTube to go do. You can do that as well. That is affordable. But if you want one of the best machines out there for freeze drying, definitely go with Harvest Right. Go to marfooglenews.com/freeze, and especially right now, they have $500 off, and they have their Mega May sale. It's the same as the Black Friday sale. Again, the last time they did the $500 off, they've done it once since then. So go to marfooglenews.com/freeze. It helps support our channel, and it reinforces the growth of our independent media. So we appreciate you, but more so, it's definitely a hobby in itself. So it is very fun. And then East Africa outages stir fears over Africa's internet vulnerabilities. So last time we saw something huge like this, I remember it was Cuba, and they talked about Operation Starfall. Now East Africa has giant outages. Now, when anything mentions Africa, I think of how China and other countries are really moving in, and they say that Africa in itself is going to be the world's breadbasket in the future. They're really heavily thinking that, or saying that Africa is going to be a big, huge market in the future. So I wonder what the heck is actually planned for that to be the truth there. Dex, do you want to talk about these outages and what happened here?
Well, here's the thing. The article is very much talking about their internet issues and the importance of the disruptions and what they should be doing and how big the opportunity can be to make better internet for them. But the highlight, I think, is that they're saying that anxieties have accompanied 3 episodes of cable cuts in 3 months. So they've had their internet cable, underwater cable, cut 3 times in 3 months, which makes me question who's doing it and why. And is this possibly, some practice runs, so to speak, for something we know they're planning to do to the West, or even in the reverse to Russia or others? We know that targeting the communications networking that's under the water is always something that's been going on, and there's been numerous threats of it from both sides, but more specifically from Russia towards the West, whether it be power, like we've seen that they said it was an accidental cut or a suspicious cut between the UK and France where power outage was done because of an underwater cut. And then we've seen them targeting specifically Russian ships, potentially targeting and scouting locations of where the cables were laid so that they could plan which areas to cut throughout different regions and everywhere from the Baltic all the way over to the UK. So that's a question I have when I see a story like this that's talking about these actual cuts of internet cable underwater. I think the last one we talked about was in the Red Sea a while back. And those were originally blamed on the Houthis, but we don't know for sure. It was just the easy, obvious target at the moment to point the finger there, given what was going on at that time.
And if you look
good question to ask
at East Africa with everything here, the obvious prime suspect would be something related to Iran or to what's going on here, because right down here is where they are even even the straits and everything else. They're saying they're squeezing all of the ships. They're stopping people. They've got a lot of their navy and their patrols there. So it's like there's obviously a very easy kind of suspect. But also, folks wonder if this is possibly three-letter agencies, something else is going on, because there's some sort of ulterior motive with what's happening with Africa, with what's happening with, of course, their economy there, and the future of Africa is very much sought after. They're saying that this is going to be the breadbasket of the world somehow. Is it the resources there? Like, what is Africa going to look like in 30 years from now? If they have all of their way. By they, I mean the people in charge. I don't know who, definitely above the presidents, prime minister, and princes. Somebody else is definitely running things. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Sweat and Ministries have had a bad feeling all week. I have had that same feeling as well, and I'm hoping it goes away. Stephen McMahon says Baba Vanga and Padre Pio supposed to have predicted May 15 as a day of breakdown. Yeah, I don't know what to say about the Baba Vanga and I know Padre Pio a lot less, but I've obviously in this community it's been brought up a lot. The Baba Vanga stuff, the blind woman, and she passed away a long time ago. There was some creepy stuff that she did get right, if I'm correct. Baba Vanga got a lot of stuff correct. And, people question if it was just a coincidence that she got lucky. But you wonder about those kind of prophetical things, right? Did she get a message from up above? Something actually is going to happen? But that would be tomorrow. So hopefully not. I did not know that tomorrow or May 15th was a Baba Vanga thing. I didn't know she was actually that specific with dates. So, or is that the Padre Pio and it's just general on Baba Vanga? And let's see here. Let's go back to the map. We've got the U.S. dollar has become so weaponized that central banks are snapping up politically neutral gold, or at least that's what they're saying. Part of the reason is gold has been shooting up. If you've been following this show and others, then you'd probably know it's over $2,300 right now. There was huge spikes. Obviously, when people are buying gold and crypto, that's a sign that they are pulling away from things like the dollar and other currencies. So usually it happens if they know something is coming or if there's a lot of insecurity in the traditional currencies. So people are either really afraid right now because there has been billions, if not trillions of dollars that just went into gold. But gold prices are on the tear recently thanks to a strong buying by central banks. Now, why would they be doing that? A signal that the precious metal is increasingly seen as a geopolitical hedge. Last week, the top International Monetary Fund, the IMF, official pointed to gold's role in potential fragmentation of the global economic and financial order. After years of shocks, including the CV, demic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, countries are reevaluating their trading partners based on economic and national security concerns. essentially saying they're looking at the two sides or the different sides, and they're going, maybe we should go with these guys. In particular, some countries are rethinking their heavy reliance on the U.S. dollar in the international transactions and foreign reserve holdings, she said. Demand for gold has risen because it's seen as politically neutral, safe asset, which can be stored at home and be insulated from sanctions or seizure, said Gopinath. Central banks accounted for 1/4 of gold demand in 2022 and 2023, as for institutions bought over 1,000 tons of gold each year, according to the World Gold Council in a recent report. The world's central banks continued buying gold, snapping up 290 tons, which is just insane to think of. 290 tons. Tons. Each ton, 2,000 pounds of gold. Given an ounce is at $23 $100 each. That's just mind-boggling money. In the first quarter of just this year, that would be on track. What is that? That would be up to 1,400 tons of gold in a year if they continued at this pace. 200, 300. That would be around 1,200 if they kept that pace. And it says concerns about the U.S. dollar outsized influence and power in the world economy as has been brewing for years. The West's unprecedented slate of sanctions and weaponization of the dollar against Russia over the invasion of Ukraine have heightened the push for de-dollarization. Remember, this was talked about. They said, well, Russia's whole thing with Ukraine, all of these other countries were quietly watching and going, wait a second, so if we get on the U.S.'s bad side, they're going to use their dollars, they're going to take our money, they're going to freeze our money, we have all of this money. Almost every country has money invested in the U.S. in some way or somehow, and they saw what we were doing with Russia, and they said, whoa, this is kind of scary. What if we have something where we morally believe we're in the right and they don't? Then we get screwed. We basically have to do what they say, or we are going to lose our money or have frozen assets, or we're going to be sanctioned. So it says, to be sure, the greenback is so entrenched in the global economy that most experts don't expect it to lose its dominance and status as the world's reserve currency in the foreseeable future. But there are a lot of experts saying that, of course, with all of the money that's been printed recently, with all of the patterns that are out there, if you look at the economic world, there's a whole niche on YouTube as well as far as the economic doomsday scenario. There are so many looking at all the signs, much smarter folks than me, and they are seeing one sign after another that our dollar is about to go up to a cliff and jump off. What do you guys think about this? Do you have opinions about de-dollarization, and do you think that we are on the precipice of a financial collapse? All of these banks and everything else, all these smaller banks too, failing and having all of these issues and collapsing into the bigger ones. What do you think is about to happen here? Do you think it's about to go in a good direction or a bad direction? Let me know in the comments down below or in the chat. It's definitely getting crazy. But as far as the share of gold, China has also been a giant buyer. China is hoarding gold. And along with wheat, natural resources, they stopped selling their natural gas to certain parties. They're holding off on it. They're basically trying to hoard all of their resources. That says that they're preparing to do something where they believe they'll be sanctioned. They're also trying to compete directly with the U.S. in almost every arena, including even underwater cables, all sorts of other things. And they are trying to compete militarily and financially, and they are even loaning several places, hundreds of places in the world, money so they can gain control. They're taking a note straight out of the U.S.'s playbook. So what do you think is about to happen? And Dex, Russia just found huge oil reserves in Antarctica.
Yeah, this is pretty fascinating. So, look, a team of Russian researchers discovered a very large oil reserve. The reserve uncovered containing about 511 billion barrels worth of oil, equating to around 10 times the North Sea's output over the last 50 years. So that's a lot of oil. They found it in the UK territory, so the territory that's run by the UK. Now, what's even more interesting is, obviously the UK says that it's their territorial claim, but they now have concerns that maybe Russia is scouting this to actually mine it or drill it for oil and try to extract that oil. The treaty that was signed back in 57 said that no country will actually have any claim to Antarctica, that everyone will share it. And they also said that they would not do anything like oil mining there or drilling. So that was part of the treaty that was signed. And now they're trying to paint the picture because of this discovery that maybe Russia is attempting to assert its influence in the area through other means than just scientific research, and that they're going in to potentially get the oil out of Antarctica. So interesting to see what will come of this, if it's more or less just, maybe some researchers found something and now they're trying to paint another big bad Russia story, or is this really big bad Russia trying to do something against the treaty that's been signed by all the countries about how they were to treat Antarctica?
Antarctica is definitely a fascinating subject in itself. I was zooming around in here, and it's like almost all of this, there's huge chunks that even if there is, the picture of something, Google Earth has it like blurred out or pixelated. There are certain spots that it's just, if you go over to the middle, it's like, look at that. Like, it's all, what did they call that? Houndstooth? Is there something here? Like, why did the satellite not get that area? Like, it's not loading. It's just, that's permanently like that. What is truly there? There's no transparency with most of Antarctica. And it's like even the bases, it's just so unclear what is actually happening there. I know that there's tons of folks with their theories about Antarctica and about the world in general. And part of the reason why so many folks have different theories about it is because there's so much secrecy around Antarctica. What the heck really happens up there, Heck, even folks think that, the NAZIs were up there and still are up there. What do you think about Antarctica? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, and then let's see here. Then we have U.S. jamming technology is significantly worse than Russia's, and of course we have ex-Pentagon officials saying this. The U.S. has been outclassed by its rivals, such as Russia, in its capacity to remotely take out enemy weapons using jamming technology, according to a former U.S. official. Mike Nagata, a retired U.S. Army lieutenant general who led special operations in the Middle East, said that the U.S. is, quote, still falling behind in its electronic warfare capabilities. Now, this is crazy because of what China has been claiming. They say that they're even ahead of Russia. So if Russia's ahead of us, if there's any truth to it, then that means Russia's still behind China. That means China's 2 steps ahead of us. If they have better technology than Russia, then how did we fall in third? If, again, there's any truth to it. Electronic warfare units, which use electronic signals to remotely scramble the GPS coordinates used to guide weapons, have played a key role in Russia's war in Ukraine. The gap between where the United States should be and where we are, in my judgment, continues to expand, not everywhere, but in far too many places, Nagata reportedly said at the SOF Week conference in Tampa. It says 2 retired special operations personnel singled out Russia in remarks to the publication. They said that one reason is the Kremlin's technology is significantly better. It is because it ignored international laws designed to stop jamming of civilian telecommunications. So they're saying because there was no bureaucratic red tape, they ended up going ahead. This is what I've said about China, too. They don't have to get anything approved. They don't have to go through a whole slew of votes to get things done. They just do it. If Xi says, I want this done, they either do it publicly just right away, or they do it secretly right away. If it's something that the world doesn't approve of, they do it in secret. It says it also invested in electromagnetic innovation for decades, while the U.S. had focused its jamming technology on gathering intelligence in areas such as the middle. And it says Russia has repeatedly used its electronic warfare units to disable expensive precision-guided weapons that the U.S. has given its ally Ukraine in its battle against Russia. Now, one thing I thought of with this and the guidance of the missile, do you remember when the missile hit in Dex? Was it Poland that hit the tractor? I wonder if something like. Do you remember how? And this is crazy because remember how they said it was. I think they said it was Ukraine. They said it was Russia first. Then Russia said it was Ukraine. Ukraine said it wasn't us. But then they said it was Ukraine. And Zelensky even came out and says, I know, I've gotten personal information from the front lines that wasn't our missile. But then it ended up, it was their missile. Do you wonder, like, did their jamming technology, like, screw up the sensors on that missile, and it ended up seeing a tractor as a tank and hit that instead, and it went over the border? Did their jamming technology affect that missile and it went over the wrong place? It's a big deal because if that kind of technology could screw up with a really big, expensive, really violent missile and it goes into the wrong country, into NATO territory, like what happened in Poland, which we don't know what actually happened, that could be World War III. That could be Article 5. Dex, did they ever have an update on that? I remember we kind of updated that they admitted that. Remember later we covered
the last I heard
tractors were hit.
Yeah, the last I heard it was, it turned out that it was a UKR like missile that was trying to take out the other missile, but went into Poland or something like that. So yeah.
But they also admitted that missiles were mistaking huge farming equipment for tanks, and so about 3 months later, it was like, so this has happened multiple times because the missile had, and this also says that maybe their systems were making decisions on its own or of some sort. We had that argument back then because possibly it saw this item that looked like a tank, but it was actually a tractor or something along those lines. That maybe the missile was deciding for itself, that had some sort of AI tech put into it, or it was testing grounds for some sort of new tech. That was also a theory that was floating around. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Swetna Ministries says, my guess, SOROS is running. Soros is running the show. Yeah. Or his son is right behind him. Hold my hand, son. Let's rule the world. Cashless leading to MOB. And, of course, let's see here. Over on DLive, thank you, Kimbria. Thank you, Vicky K. Thank you, Skyhouse. And then, of course, thank you, Poco Loco. And we have Boeing Starliner's crew debut delayed again over spacecraft issue. So this is an update on a previous story. If you remember, there was a engineer or somebody, a contractor that was working on the stuff. They had a very serious concern. They said they should not launch this test because lives are at stake. They said it will be a disaster. They shouldn't launch. Well, they delayed it, and they say that it is because of the spacecraft issue. So, Dex, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen. Boeing's getting thrown under the bus, and they did delay it.
Yes, it was supposed to be in a couple of days, this Friday, and now it is pushed back to potentially the 21st, which I think is next Tuesday. I'm still even skeptical on that date, but man, would you want to be one of the two pilots that are going up in this? I mean, given the track record, given the history, given the fact that everybody's pointing the finger at them for everything right now, and this thing's been delayed 3 times. It's 1.5 billion over budget. It's way behind in its date. It's years behind its original schedule. Yet other people like Musk have created their, crewed spacecrafts in a lot less time and got them up and, went through their testing phases without humans on them, ironed out the kinks, and everything works. But yeah, We'll have to see what happens with Boeing here, but this is, I think, a make or break for them as far as if this is successful or not. Because if this turns out to be a massive failure, aside from the potential for loss of life, it's going to be a real big blunder in the eyes of Boeing's name, given everything else that's going on right now.
It's really sad because if you're local here in Washington, almost everybody that I know, almost everybody in Washington knows somebody that's worked for Boeing or at one point worked at Boeing or their grandparents worked at Boeing, and it was a respectable place to work. It brings me back to the theory. If you didn't watch the last week of shows, we were talking about this, that there's side theories that maybe this is corporate espionage by another company, by another country. China just stepped into the plane making business with the 737s or the copy of it. Or are they throwing Boeing under the bus? Is it going to crash their stocks? Then the very rich are going to buy it up and then they're going to redeem themselves. Because here's the thing. Even if they get the crappiest reputation ever, if they get U.S. contracts, they're going to get billions, if not trillions of dollars over the next whatever years. So even if the reputation with the public is just completely shot, it doesn't matter if they get the contracts. And if the U.S. Gov is anywhere behind there, or if there's anybody that's behind this kind of stuff, because all these problems have just come out and it seemingly nowhere. Do you guys feel like that too? Like the problems just all of a sudden, their doors are falling off, their wheels are falling off, their pilots are falling out, should have flown China. It seems weird to me. Does it seem weird to you guys? Maybe something's going on purpose. And before we move on, make sure to go check out My Patriot Supply. If you do want to get pre-made, pre-packaged as far as freeze-dried food, the reason why we've picked My Patriot Supply is it is one of the most affordable ways to get bulk supplies of freeze-dried food. You know exactly how much you're getting, and of course you know how long it's going to last. As far as the price of freeze-dried food has tripled in the last 3 years, and as far as it's something where you want to get it yesterday, not tomorrow, because the prices keep going up. Not only because the price of the technology keeps going up, but also the price of food. Food costs are not going to go back down, and I don't think that they're going to go down over time. They're only going to go up. So as far as this goes, even if the price on freeze-dried or regular food triples, or even if we have hyperinflation in 5 years, you'll still have 20 years left on the shelf, and you'll have that food put away. It's a very easy way if you have a certain number of people. So say if you need 3 months of food, or if you want to have a month of food, if you get a 3-month supply, that's a month for 3 people. It's a month and a half for 2 people, or it's a month, or it's a 3 months for 1. So again, it's very easy to do the math as far as if you want to get multiple. It is a very affordable way to do it, especially when you use our link, and you'll get a huge discount. Again, there's all sorts of different specials depending on what size you get, but you can go up to 3 months or even bigger, or you can go down. You can even get a 72-hour kit for a go bag, or you can get a week, you can get a month, whatever fits what your needs are. So go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. There's also other items there. Once you go to that page, you'll actually see, you don't need a code, just use that link. You'll automatically get the discounts applied, and then you'll also be helping us out at the same time. But you'll see there's other items there. There's anti-radiation tablets, if that's something you're concerned about. There's Alexa Pure Pro, which is the water filtration system. It's definitely something that's top 5 list for preppers as far as a water filtration system is a big deal. So you can get all of that at a discount over at marfooglenews.com/prep. And then we have the W and the H and the O makes key concessions ahead of a Demic treaty vote. The PAN and the DEM and the IC. They put the IC in it. The organization has watered down some provisions of its Demic agreements ahead of the upcoming World Health Assembly on May 27th. Critics in the United States, however, say that the changes don't do enough to address the concerns over the policy. Provisions in the prior draft of this treaty and the other and international health regulations together aim to effectively centralize and increase the power of this agency, which again already had control over 95% of the world, if it declares a health emergency. This is a big deal, and it is on the back page of every news because of all of the wars and everything going on. So I thought in the last thing you remember of this show, definitely pay attention to this. The release of the latest draft of the amendments dated April 17th made changes, and April 17th are the first public update on the IHR draft, which was initially made public in early 2023. And it says, in most areas, this is a direct quote, for all of those which most concerned us from a legal perspective, the interim draft reflects a major retreat by the agency, this organization working group, from the text of the original proposals. Practically all of the bad things are still there. The language is gentler, but since there is so much to be decided later, it is not clear if the gentler language is meaningful. Basically, they took it and did a bunch of legal jargon, reworded it, made it sound pretty, put a unicorn bow on it, and basically didn't take out any of the scary stuff. It says, my best guess is that they're desperate to get something passed, so the options are likely to be either a vanilla version of the treaty or a delay. But they fear a delay because people are waking up. Again, this is a quote, right? So this is something that a lot of folks should be paying attention to, depending on what gets put into that. We're talking about they have overwhelming power over almost everything in every country in the world. It's crazy how everyone fell under a single umbrella in an emergency. And this is a prepper's point as far as things might run like this today, they might run like this tomorrow, but the day after that, if there is an emergency, almost everything gets thrown out the window. It doesn't matter what country you live in. When a declaration of emergency goes into play, and if we're talking about the bigger emergencies, the really big ones, the worst case scenarios, like what we went through, only all of us have our questions about how bad it actually was, they had ultimate power. Everything changed. I don't know anybody, there's nobody on this planet that wasn't affected by that. So with this, I hope that people keep in mind that prepping shouldn't be a crazy thing. It should be a responsible thing, and understand that the hope is that, of course, everything is good and that we all have a wonderful time in the next 10 years, in the next 20, in the next 30, until we pass peacefully. But that's most likely not going to be the scenario, especially when money's involved, when very, very insane people are at the very top, and when those very same insane people absolutely despise anyone who does not have their same level of money and power. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind that power and money is really at the root of all evil. All of it. 3-letter agency, all of it. Every one of them, all of it. So that's main point. Dex, any points out of this and the scariness of it?
Hey, you can't put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig.
It's the perfect way to end it. Thank you, Dex. I appreciate all of your help tonight. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And thank you, Sweatin' Ministry. Thank you, Navitz from Canada. Thank you. Appreciate that. Carol, thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen McMahon. Thank you, Sweatin'em Ministries. Appreciate you guys over on D-Live. Thank you, Chance. Thank you, Rip Curl, for being here. Thank you, of course, Jammer. Thank you, Ilea. Thank you to all of our wonderful mods. Thank you, Trinity, for popping in the last few shows. I appreciate you. And thank you to everyone who has made it to almost every single show. And for those that are taking a break right now and possibly watching the replay, love you guys. Hopefully you make it back to the lives. We miss you and appreciate you. And make sure to tune in tomorrow over to Marfoogle News. And, of course, join us around the same time tomorrow for the updates on today. Have a good night, guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro, it's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Why do they need a train on the moon? Why do they need it so soon? I'm asking, what are you? Why do they need a train on the moon? Why do they need it so soon? I'm asking, what are you? Why do they need a train on the moon? Why do they need it so soon? I'm asking, what are you? Why do they need a train on the moon? Why do they need it so soon? I'm asking, what are you? Why do they need a train on the moon? Why do they need it so soon? I'm asking, what are you? I would up before fly. American in the city of nine. Everybody really want to see blue, but they all see pink.